Welcome to our story series 2.0. We love hearing the stories of the impact of Christ's love, the impact that City Church has, the community that Christ has built. So today we have the privilege of meeting with Aubrie Calamanco. How are you?
I'm good.
You ready for this?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay, it's going to be so good. Tell us a little bit about your background before City Church.
So right before, about a year and a half before, almost 2 years before I came to City Church, I was widowed. My husband was in a motorcycle accident. They believed that he had a brain aneurysm rupture.
Wow.
And so I had the police come to the house and, tell me the story. And then from that point on, I just kind of was very numb. Just in shock, and he was in ICU for 3 days before he passed, and so then I was there. We had been married for 13 years, and we had only been in Arizona since 2017.
Oh, wow, recent.
Yeah, and we don't have immediate family. I have his daughter and son lived here with their mom, and all the rest of our family was not here. And so when he passed away, it was basically just me.
Sure.
And I was attending other churches. I got saved when I was 6. And so I've been involved in churches and connected with some churches. There's been a lot of churches, though, where I go, I serve, I do the thing, but then if I'm not serving, nobody sees me.
Sure.
And I just walk in and out, and that's it. And
Sure.
The church I was attending before, I felt like it was a really big church, and I felt like if I walk in and if I'm not there, nobody knows. And I needed to be known. I needed somebody to see me.
Right.
Whereas before that, it didn't matter, but this time it mattered.
Yeah. So here's a question for you. Tracy and I, the founders of City Church, we have never been able to experience what it's like to be a first-time guest. We don't know that feeling. Tell me a little bit about being a first-time guest. What was that like?
It was really the best first-time guest that I had experienced that I'd had.
Wow.
It really was, because when I walked up, I think must have been Jasmine, but at the time I didn't know. And she's like, "Oh, hey, you're new here, right? That's your first time?" And I was like, "Yes." And she handed me a card and says, "We're so glad that you're here." And then at the door, people were, like, "Hey, I'm so glad you're here." And then I walked in and I talked to you, and I didn't know who you were at the time. And
Right.
and then, and you just made me feel really welcome. And then I walked in and I sat down. And then at the end, I was like, okay, I really feel connected here. Each step I just felt like God was saying, "I see you.
Wow.
I see you."
Because that's what you needed right there, was to be seen.
Is to be seen. And then when I got the video message from you, and it wasn't a generic message,
Right.
but it was, "Hey, Aubrie, we're glad you're here." And I was like,
Wow.
that's where I need to be.
So in your story that you graciously wrote for us, you talked about some personal healing from past and from your husband passing away. Tell us a little bit about that journey, the healing.
So I have experienced a lot of anxiety, a lot of past hurts, past abuse, and as I have been letting myself be seen and known, I've been able to start letting things go. And I do see a therapist that helps me to visualize and to, we go through sessions where she's like, "Oh, I see you're scrunching your shoulders. What's that all about?" And so we'll talk through things. And the healing process of letting God just love me and say, I don't have to be ashamed of things that have happened.
Yeah.
And letting go has been wonderful. Because it's so easy to say, "Oh, just let it go and give it to God."
Right.
But it's not that easy.
No.
And I'm used to holding on tight, and now I find myself saying, "Okay, God, I'm starting to hold on again. I need you to help me to let it go."
Right.
and to invite him in and give me his peace.
And that's so mature because you suddenly had no control over anything. In those vulnerable moments, is there a highlight where you're at City Church and went, oh, this is the person, or this is the moment? I almost reflect it back to, hopefully for all of us, the moment we gave our lives to Christ. We remember that moment. That was the moment. Was there a moment in your last couple of years where you felt like, this is it, this is good?
I don't know if there's one single moment. I feel like there's been multiple of small moments where it's just like, I just feel like when I'm in church, whether I'm out talking to people and feeling that connection with other people, and feeling like God saying, you're seeing these people because they need you to see them.
Yeah.
They need to know I care.
Right.
Or in worship where I'm just letting go, and I like the freedom in our worship where we can just raise our hands and just be free with that. And some of the series that you've done with mental health has been really helpful to me, because so many times, like you said, we hide it in the church. We're like, no, we're fine.
Right.
We're fine. We're not supposed to be
That's
upset.
right. That's exactly right.
And knowing, like, okay, here's a leader that also deals with anxiety.
Yeah.
That's helpful. And it was just like, okay, I can relax. It's okay, because nobody's going to look at me weird or say, did you see her?
Yeah.
Because that's usually how it feels in church, where there's a lot of judgmental.
So sad, but very, very true. How would you contrast your relationship with Jesus now to 2 years ago?
I feel like I'm more in love with Jesus.
Wow. That's so big. Yeah. Do you feel like you're letting him love you?
Yes.
Isn't that part of it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I feel like he, when I start getting into the mode of doing again, I feel like I am more able to hear him say, just let me love you. It's not about being perfect.
Right.
Just let me love you. And I feel like I'm connecting emotionally deeper and seeing that God has emotions and that he loves deeply. He loves so deeply
Deeply.
And I'm just in awe of it, because I've always felt unworthy. And I feel like he's like, you're my daughter. Yeah,
exactly, he is. That's so, but you talk all throughout your testimony, but you said about City Church, he created a place where God is glorified and people are healed. And that's so vital, isn't it? To our community, that it's not just doing, which is part of it. We all have to do, we serve. And part of it is giving. Part of it is receiving and getting healthy. And that's the exchange of impact.
Yeah.
Aubrie, for the person listening to this that's a part of a church community but feels unseen, how would you encourage that person?
I would encourage that person to sit and listen and let God speak to them, and ask God to show them, where can I go where I can be seen? And to not be afraid to talk to people, and to let others love on you. Because a lot of times, like, if they're like me, it's like you get into the shell and you're used to nobody talking to you, so you're used to being by yourself.
Right.
But let yourself be vulnerable, because people do want to see and want to know. And but pray that God will show you who those people are.
Yeah.
Or that he will guide you to the right place.
That's really good. Yeah. So in a concluding question, and our word is impact. If there was a moment where you said, okay, now it's time for me to make a difference, what was that click?
I don't know how long I'd been coming, but I was like kind of testing the waters, and I was like, will people still see me even if I'm not serving? And I knew I needed healing time, but I also knew that I needed people that weren't, I didn't want to be a part of a church that only sees you if you're doing something for them.
Right.
And I've been a part of those kinds of churches before, and I didn't want that. And so I just kind of came in, and people were still continuing to talk to me, remembering my name, which was amazing. And I was like, okay, eventually I think it was only about 6 months, and then I was like, okay, I feel like this is where I need to be. And I just knew, I can't remember if it was a sermon or if it was just a feeling that I had one day, and I was just like, okay, I'm ready. I'm ready to serve. Like I felt like God was saying, okay, now it's your time. Because all the times before I would just kind of jump in and just start serving, but I wanted to let God just work and heal first. And so I feel like he was helping me along the way to be able to reach out and start serving.
I'm so glad you did. Thank you for sharing your story and transparency of it and the emotions of it. And we are so glad you're part of the community of City Church. And I just remind you that you're making an impact in people's lives. It's not an overstatement that almost weekly there's a comment about the lady at the New Here banner.
That's good to hear.
And that's Aubrie. And we're so glad you're here. Thank you for sharing your story today.
Thank you.